Hello, my name's Steve. I'm setting up this set of videos to help the average astrophotographer learn from basic to more advanced astrophotography and astronomy. In this intro video, I'm just going to go over my setup real quick. Please don't get overwhelmed. I've been doing this for 4 years. If you're just getting into this, I'll explain all this in later videos. I don't want to get into this too in depth at this time, but this is my setup. I got an Atlas mount. This is a EQ aligned mount. I use polar alignment, and it automatically tracks the star as it moves across the sky. I will have a video on mounts and the best choices for you. I also have an Orion 115 millimeter triplet. It's very good for astrophotography, very good for observation. I do have a modded Canon camera that I use for most of my astrophotography. I do also have a couple other cameras that I use. This setup looks complicated right here, but it's not really that complicated. I'll explain this in later videos also. This camera here is my guide camera. Basically what this does is I can use a program to fine-tune my mount, all mounts over time, depending on polar alignment and exactly what part of the sky you're looking at, have difficulty tracking perfectly. It's a set of gears, and over time it will start to slide across the sky. When you have a guide scope like this, it sends signals to your mount saying, I have a star right here. I'm tracking this star. It tells the mount, hey, you're leaving where you're supposed to be looking. And it sends constant corrective signals to the mount saying, I have to adjust where you're looking because you're not tracking perfectly. This is good for very long-term astrophotography, long exposures. Kind of advanced. You don't need this to start with. Like I said, don't get overwhelmed at this point. I'm just going over what I have briefly, and then later videos I will be breaking all this down and explaining more in depth what I have. I'm not very good at cable control, as you can see, and this is again disassembled at this point. My mount I put in my garage. I'll briefly show you one of the worst enemies of astrophotography: weather. As you can see today, the weather is horrible. I live in eastern Pennsylvania. The weather here is not prone to astrophotography. It's very often like this. And astronomy. I say astrophotography, it's a term you can kind of interchange with astronomy. Depends, again, I'll go over this in the future, if you're looking at just observing things or taking pictures of the things you're observing, and I'll go over the differences of that in the future also. This is a camper I take on a lot of my astrophotography trips with my wife. Now, again, there's my mount inside the garage. I basically just bring it out here in the driveway. I have pretty good viewing around here. I have some trees, but they don't really block my view. The city I live near is in this direction, so I can't really look that way anyway because the skylighting, the city glow, kind of interferes with my astrophotography to an extent. So this actually works out real well for me for most times of the year. Again, I think I covered everything on this. This setup here is what's called dew warmers, and again, an advanced thing, especially if you go out in the summertime. I go to Cherry Springs State Park a lot, high in the mountains, tends to be very moist. This dew warmer keeps the lenses on my scope above the dew point so they don't fog. Again, I'll be covering that in a later video. And I guess that's where I'm going to start. And I'll cover a couple things in a few minutes later. Thanks. Okay, I just wanted to show you some examples of my early Astrophotography. This is one of my first pictures taken about 4 years ago of the Orion Nebula. As you can see, it's pretty rough. At the time, I was very proud of this, and I wanted to share with you, if you do share this stuff, your early pictures on Facebook or some astrophotography sites. There's a lot of good ones on Facebook. Do a search, find your better preferences, ones that you like. If you do show your early pictures similar to this one, I just want to give you a heads up, you will get some comments that aren't entirely positive. Take those with a grain of salt. I will not allow those on my YouTube channel. I'll do my best to filter them out. This is an entirely encouragement aimed YouTube channel. This is actually not a bad picture for the first picture. And many of the sites that you go to will tell you that this is not a bad picture for your first picture. A lot of it depends on what gear you use, how much money you have. It's all artistic impression. I just wanted to show you this one, and I'll put on one of my later ones here. Give me a second. And this is one of my more recent Orion pictures. As you can see, it's significantly bettered, a lot more enhanced. This is where the artistic expression comes in. In this particular photo, some of the comments I got, yeah, the core was burned out. That's fine. You could take, this is called the core of the Orion Nebula, and it is burned out. There's stars that you can see in here. That's my goal in taking this picture was not the core, but the fine dust on the outside of the explosion. And that's what this is. It was a distant in time explosion that ejected all this dust out in the Orion Nebula. It's now become a new nursery for stars. It's a very fascinating target. It's a great first target for any telescope that you buy. You can see this visually very easy, the Orion Nebula. And I'll go into later how to find it. But I just wanted to show you an example of one of my recent pictures and one of my first pictures. It's the same thing. Kind of hard to believe. Again, this is what you start with. You develop as you go. Don't get frustrated. Work with it. And I'll continue on here in a second. Thanks. Okay, in conclusion for today's video, I'll have a slideshow running in the background with some of my pictures that I've taken over the 4 years. Some pretty good, some okay. You might see multiple processes of the same picture. I'll let that run through as I finish up here. One of the big questions that I'm going to be answering in my next video is, where should I start? What telescope should I buy? What mount do I need? What's my next step? I'll cover that in the next video. A lot of the questions are going to be answered as to what telescope I need. You're going to have to weigh certain factors like how much can you spend, who are you buying the telescope for, and I'll cover all that stuff in my next video. I'll cover different types of telescopes and what to look for each one, and hopefully that'll set you up to guide you in which direction you want to go. A couple of the other resources I want to cover real quick. Local astronomy clubs. Type your city name in a Google search and do a search for astronomy clubs in your area. They're an excellent source of information. You can get a lot of good information from astronomy clubs. Go to one of their meetings, sit in. They're always free. You can join if you want to, or you could just sit in, and they'll ask around. People are more than willing to help answer your questions. Another good source, and this also ties in with the astronomy clubs, a lot of them run what's called star parties. I did mention earlier in this video that I often go to the Cherry Springs Star Party. That's a pretty massive thing for Pennsylvania. It always gets filled up within 2 or 3 weeks after the registration starts. Check in on that. Again, you can go there. They'll let you look through their telescopes. They'll explain things to you. Again, it's dealing with different personalities, so some people are more pleasant than others. You'll get to learn that real quick. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And most people are freely welcoming any questions and will help you out. The next video I do, again, I'll be covering common questions, what telescope should I buy, and that type of thing. And I'll look forward to seeing you there. Please take a moment to subscribe below. It's free, won't cost you anything, and it'll help me track who's interested and who's not. If you do have any questions that you want me to answer specifically, you can email me at astrophotographycoach@gmail.com, and I'll put a link to that email in the description of the video below. And again, if you want to have any questions that you would like to see a video describe, a step or a procedure, please email me, let me know. This is for you. If you have any questions, I can't answer what I don't know you're curious about. So feel free to email me at that email address, ask away, and I'll do my best to help you out. Again, hope this helps. I look forward to seeing you in the future. Share this video with your friends, subscribe, and help me keep it going. Thanks. Bye.